the two-tier against white people narrative just doesn't have any data. Numbers that we have, the amount of people in prison, look at the numbers and tell me where we're being discriminatory against white people. Because when you look at that, you will not find that. You will find the opposite. And then you go, shit, the right-wingers are lying to me. You're asking about the two-tier thing that's going around at the moment.
Now, for those who don't know, pre-sentencing reports are essentially documents written by probation officers following an interview with the defendant and given to judges to help inform their sentencing decision. Pre-sentencing reports should be considered necessary if the offender is one or more of the following: from an ethnic minority, cultural minority, or faith minority community, has disclosed that they are transgender.
So before they get sentenced, they get given a report that tells them a bit about the defendant, and they say, like, this is where they're from, this is their background, this is their story, maybe their mum did this, their mum was a shoplifter, their dad did this, they come from this troubled thing, they got kicked out of school at this age, blah, blah, blah. So it's to give the judge or whoever does the sentencing a bit of background information on the person before they sentence them. All right, and they specifically mentioned ethnic minorities. So if they're an ethnic minority, this is something they should be aware of and understand before sentencing them. Right, and so people are getting obviously really pissed about this because they're like, well, what about white people? And it's an interesting one because so they will talk about two-tier justice, but if we go forward in the video, you will see this thing here, right? It's quite good to just remember this. Police activity. Both arrest and stop and search rates vary greatly between ethnicities, with the highest rates for black individuals. Stop and search rate per 1,000 members of the population. So every 1,000 people you have, white people will get stopped and searched four times. Asians, 8 times, 6 times for mixed race. Chinese, 9 times. Black, 29 times, right, out of 1,000. Now, black people don't commit that much disproportionate crime, like that much. I think it is disproportionate to a degree, but it's not that much, right? So they are being stopped and searched much more, disproportionate to the amount of crimes they would commit, right? Arrest rates per 100,000 members of the population. So whites 13, blacks 47, Asians 16, mixed 30, Chinese 15. Prosecutions. Black and mixed defendants had the highest number of prosecutions per 1,000 members of the population. And then it has sentencing. Blacks and mixed defendants were more likely to be sentenced per 1,000. So basically, it's very clearly disproportionately stacked against black people, just on average, right? You're more likely to be stopped and searched. I think as well, it says something in this video, and I'll double check, that they're more likely to get a harsher sentence for the same exact crime as someone who isn't black, right? We know this is fact. Like this is like indisputable fact that a black person and a white person, they do the same crime, black person's going to go to jail for longer. We know that. It's two-tier justice, as they would call it. Or as they wouldn't call it. That's insane, bro. That's like a clear thing right there. So if you had 100 white people, this is my understanding of this data, you had 100 white people, 100 black people, 100 Asian people, Chinese, mixed. Only 8% of the white people who got arrested, so say the 100 of them got arrested for drug offences, were suspected of drugs, right? Only 8% of them actually got arrested. 19, if it is a black person, 19% of them got arrested, right? So this is of suspects. So if people we believe have drugs on them, black people will be twice as likely to be arrested. The two-tier against white people narrative just doesn't have any data. So like I would be totally open to listen to it. If someone had some really strong data to show that white people were being penalized more than black people, Asian people, etc. But there's no data to say that. Every piece of data would tell you the opposite. A University of Leeds study of CPS charging decisions published in 2023 found that BME suspects are subject to disproportionate prosecutions. White suspects are charged in 69.9% of cases. Asians between 71.8% and black 73%. And Caribbean 77.5%. Mixed white black and black African 79.5%. And mixed white black Caribbean suspects in 81%. So if you're mixed white black Caribbean, which is like a mixed race kid, I guess, you are, goddamn, 12% more likely to be charged than a white person in the amount of cases. So cps.gov.uk. So that's a pretty that is Crown Prosecution Services, right? That's their own study. If they are white/black Caribbean, they will be charged 81.3% of the time, 12% higher. I don't agree with you, but even if it's true hypothetically, how does given white men... What do you mean? Oh, you have to explain why you don't agree with me, because I'm just showing you data here. This isn't my opinion. I don't have an opinion here. This is the data is saying that. So what is it you don't agree with? But even if what you say is true hypothetically, how does giving white men bigger sentences for the same crime solve this? That isn't what is happening. That isn't what is happening, right? What is happening, from my understanding, is that these reports, right? The point of giving this report here is that it helps when you give a background, you humanize the person, right? So when a judge is reading through it and they understand the person's backstory, life story, they become more humanized. Because one of the problems with this sort of inbuilt prejudice we have against black people is that, or any minority ethnic, is that we other them. We don't feel as connected to them because we're different. We're culturally different, or we see ourselves as very different. By humanizing them, understanding their backstory, writing up one of these reports, understand their backstory, I think the theory is the judge or whoever's in charge of this shit will be more compassionate and perhaps not be discriminatory. So what I believe it's trying to do is avoid and counter the discrimination that we have clearly proven happens, right? That's the point of these. And we're trying to address that imbalance, that two-tier justice, which is factually existing, rather than this imagined two-tier justice against white people. Now, I would say my critique of this whole thing is that they need to talk about class. Like, that's the one thing that's missing on this list. And that's because we're a deeply classist society. We're even less racist than we are classist in this country. So we don't even consider class in this. We talk about things that could be associated with class, like addiction issues. Maybe you can argue ethnic minority is tied to class because typically they tend to be more working class. But they don't out and out put class. And I would agree. I would say put a class background. These are things to consider, to think about, and to have in your mind when you make your sentence. Just to be aware that we have this natural bias and factually proven imbalances in our justice system against black people and just minority ethnic in general. We understand that. Keep that in mind when you come up with your sentences. That's what they're saying. That's what these reports do. Keep it in mind. Bear in mind, look, lads, we're aware that we do tend to prison black people a lot more than white people. Let's try and be a bit aware of that. That's all I think it's doing. And maybe you can critique it. Maybe you can say there's a better way of doing it. Suggest a better way. But you're not suggesting a better way. You're trying to say that this is bad because we're trying to be, aggressive against white people. We're not. It's because white people tend to be arrested and their prison sentences are much lower. So what they're trying to do is readdress that imbalance. It doesn't look like they're trying to say arrest white people more and put them in jail for longer. They're trying to say, let's stop arresting black minority ethnic people at a higher rate than white people. Let's bring it down to the same rate. That's what I understand from this. All right. I don't think it's a two-tier thing. This is quite clearly the opposite. And I think it's just, I don't know. I'm not hearing a good argument against this right now. And I'd be open. The only argument I would agree with is that they need to talk about class, be explicit in talking about class. It is what is happening, not just me per se. Labour MP Shabana Mahmood has condemned it as a two. It doesn't matter if one person has said that. It doesn't matter. We have to look at the data. And until you can show me some data, not from, I don't know, fucking InfoWars, but some actual data that says that white people are being treated worse than any other ethnic group, then you can talk. You don't have data. This is why we call it conspiracy theory, because there's no data that backs your opinion. All the data says the opposite. And that's what you have to be aware of the right. Every accusation the right wing makes is a confession of what they're doing. If they're saying there's two-tier justice against whites, what they're really meaning is that we are being discriminatory against black minority ethnics. And that is proven. There's no doubt about that. And you can look at endless amounts of data that will prove that. It will say that. These two-tier justice against white people, they have no data to prove it. Go show me some fucking Crown Prosecution Service data, some sentencing data, numbers that we have, the amount of people in prison. Look at the numbers and tell me where we're being discriminatory against white people. Because when you look at that, you will not find that. You will find the opposite. And then you go, shit, the right wingers are lying to me. They're trying to get me pissed off.